All right, welcome back as we bring in our panel right now to talk about the year that was in politics and the big year that lies ahead. So we have a big panel with us here today. We have Democratic strategist Laura Beck, 2016 vice chair for the Indiana Trump campaign, Tony Samuel, two former state reps, Democrat Terry Austin, Republican Mike Murphy, and UIndy political science professor, Dr. Laura Wilson. So Laura, I'll start with you here. No shortage of big stories to talk about this past year. You had the mayoral races at the local level, the state and federal races getting started a little early for next year, and all the chaos in Congress too. What stood out to you the most in 2023?
Well, I think one of the large themes was the challenge to the political party. I'm careful not to say erosion of the party, and I don't think this is the beginning or the end of it. But for both parties, I think you saw less allegiance, less loyalty, and that was magnified certainly at the federal level with Kevin McCarthy, right? Selected as Speaker of the House over several ballots, couldn't stay in that particular position. And even at the local level, when you talk about Marion County, the end of slating, it feels like there's less loyalty and adhesion in the party, and I think that might be something that continues into 2024 as well.
And Mike, these are very divided times, but as Laura pointed out, they're very divided within the parties.
Absolutely. I think 23 was a year of a complete lack of collegiality. People are proud of stopping any progress on good things, and they should be ashamed, not proud. Just very poor leadership on the part of President Biden, and his approval ratings show that. And then, of course, the ongoing 24-hour buffoonery of former President Trump. I mean, he's driving the clown car.
Terry, at the local level, we had the municipal races. A number of them went as expected. Indianapolis Mayor Joe Hogsett was reelected despite Jefferson Shreve spending millions to try to challenge him in that race. I know Indiana Democrats also pointed to some of their wins in cities like Evansville and Terre Haute as well this past year. What were some of the highlights that stood out to you?
I think some of the fresh young faces that came forward in the Democrat Party, showing that there is a place for them and there's an opportunity for young people to lead in the Democratic Party. And in local government and state government, you'll see more of that, I think, in 2025 or 2024. And then at the national level, my personal winner was Liz Cheney, who showed remarkable courage and led that January 6th committee and did a remarkable job.
Tony, what stood out to you the most this past year in the midst of these very divided times?
Yeah, on the national scene, to me, it's the distractions that we're all flooded with constantly regarding President Trump, because he didn't ask for these lawsuits. The Democrat Party is weaponizing the justice system. I've said this before. So now he's tied up in court cases, yet his poll numbers continue to rise. He's up in the 60s, which is unheard of. His competitors, which are legitimate candidates, are in the teens. Now, the reason for that is that the general public and the Republicans see through all of the shenanigans, and they stick to the issues. First on their mind are crime, education, the economy, the border, and that's why his numbers are so good. On the Democrat side, you flip that and they contrast that with what's happened over 3 years with Joe Biden, and those are the reasons that his poll numbers have dropped and he's in the low 30s. So that's my big takeaway from 2023.
Laura, I know you've got a different perspective on all of that.
Well, yeah, and I think two things on 2023 for me is we started 2023 with that the sky is falling on Joe Hogsett. This is it. He's done. It's over. And the mayor's office and kudos to the mayor, to Mayor Joe and his team. They didn't take their eye off the ball, and they governed incredibly well despite a strong challenger and a challenger that had a lot of money. But at the same time, they really stayed focused. They really stayed on their game. And I think they really delivered for the people in Marion County. And I think a lot of credit should go to them for doing that. I don't think they ever lost sight of that. When you look at the national landscape, I mean, frankly, it's pretty depressing sometimes. The fact that all of us who are sitting up here who've worked in politics before, we all know what it's like to have to work across the aisle. We know what that's like. We know what it's like to pick up the phone and call somebody in another office and work with them on getting things done. And it's really a badge of honor not to get things done, unfortunately, and that really should not be the case. And I think I'm just disappointed most of the time by just the rhetoric I see coming out of Washington that spills back into Indiana. In terms of President Biden, I mean, they have to, I do believe, do a better job at messaging their accomplishments. We're talking reducing prescription drug costs. We're talking major infrastructure improvements that people in Indiana, that Republicans in Indiana are taking advantage of. We've got to get better at doing that, and I really hope that, I believe we will, but we got to get there for 24.
And as we move into 2024 and this race for president, a lot of the issues that Laura just mentioned are certainly, top of mind maybe to everyday people and to voters, but certainly a lot of the things that are going to be in the news in the next coming year may not focus on those everyday issues, because we've got a lot of really consequential things that could be happening, from potentially another impeachment inquiry underway to all the trials and indictments that the former president faced as he seeks to run again in the midst of everything that happened back in 2020.
There's no shortage of information, of things going on, and that's just, of course, talking about the presidential race. We also have an exciting gubernatorial race. We have a U.S. Senate race. I think the thing I'm really looking forward to in 2024 is to see what voter turnout looks like and voter engagement, because in 2023 for municipal elections, we had lots of money, we had lots of outreach, and we had the smallest uptick in terms of people actually showing out to the polls relative to municipal elections. I'm hoping we see a lot more of that in 2024.
We may see a lot of people voting in 24, certainly. Mike, what are you watching for in the year ahead in the midst of everything that Laura mentioned there?
Well, I think two things. One is the governor's race, obviously. You've got
Speaking of people who have a lot of money, Laura mentioned that earlier.
Yeah,
There's a lot of money in that race.
That's right. But we have 5 candidates. You could win the primary with literally 21% of the vote, essentially. And we don't know who it's going to be yet, but a lot of people. You have 3 older white guys with a lot of money. You have an outstanding, dynamic woman on the Republican side in Crouch. And then you have Curtis Hill, who's been controversial, to say the least. And so it'll be fascinating. At the national level, I'm wondering if the Republican Party nationally will still be effective, or is it beginning to go the way of the Whigs in the 1850s? I think it's too early to tell, but there's a lot of danger signs, just as there were back then.
We're running out of time here. Terry, is the race for governor one that Democrats can win in 2024?
I think there's a pathway for Jennifer McCormick. I think a lot of it's going to depend on whether women turn out. I think that's the issue.
Real quickly, Tony, Laura, your biggest prediction for 2024?
Biggest prediction, because of everything how I answered the previous question, I think Joe Biden will not be the Democrat nominee for president.
Laura, your biggest prediction for 2024?
I think the governor's race is really going to be the one to watch. And I also think my other one is the impact of abortion. I don't necessarily think we're going to see it in Indiana, but I think we will see it in battleground states.
Perhaps nationwide.
Yeah, particularly if they've got a referendum on the ballot. I think that's going to be key for these other states.
Panel's back in just a few minutes, but coming up next, the end of the year means the end of an era in one Indiana city. We talk one-on-one with the mayor of Carmel next.